In the world of automobiles, very few names carry as much power, prestige, and mystery as Rolls-Royce. It is more than a car. It is a legend, a moving palace, a piece of engineering art that kings, queens, maharajas, and world leaders have trusted for over a century. But behind the shine of polished chrome and the whisper of its quiet engines lies a story of two men, a fateful meeting, world wars, royal families, and an unbroken legacy of luxury. This is the complete history of Rolls-Royce, the royal car. The two men who started it all. Our story begins in the early 20th century. The year is 1904. Charles Rolls was a young aristocrat born into a wealthy British family. He was not just rich, he was passionate. Fascinated by speed, adventure, and machinery, Charles was one of the very first people in Britain to fall in love with automobiles. At a time when most people still used horses and carriages, Rolls was already racing cars across Europe, breaking records, and dreaming of a future where cars would rule the roads. Henry Royce was very different. Born in 1863 into a poor family, Royce's life was filled with struggle. He left school at the age of 9 and worked long hours to help support his family. But inside this boy was a spark of genius. He trained himself in engineering, studied electricity, and eventually started his own company, F.H. Royce and Company, where he built cranes and small machines. But Royce was not satisfied. He wanted to make something better, something more perfect. And so he turned his attention to the motor car. In 1904, Royce built his very first car, a small, reliable two-cylinder machine. It was not flashy, but it was brilliant. And then, through a mutual friend, Charles Rolls came to see Henry Royce's creation. That day, history changed forever. Rolls was amazed at the smoothness, the precision, the quality. He agreed that if Royce would keep making cars, Rolls would sell every single one. And so, on May 4, 1904, the partnership of Rolls-Royce was born. The birth of a legend. Just 2 years later, in 1906, Rolls-Royce Limited was officially founded. Their first significant car was the Rolls-Royce 10 HP, but it was in 1907 that their true masterpiece arrived, the Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. The Silver Ghost was unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was smooth. It was quiet. It ran without rattles or breakdowns at a time when most cars broke down every other mile. To prove its reliability, Rolls-Royce drove the Silver Ghost for more than 14,000 miles in an endurance trial. The car performed so flawlessly that newspapers called it the best car in the world. This was more than a car. It was a symbol. Rolls-Royce became the gold standard of luxury. Driving one was no longer about moving from place to place. It was about arriving in style, about making a statement. A royal affair. It didn't take long for royalty to notice. Soon, Rolls-Royce cars were seen outside palaces, castles, and royal courts. The British royal family adopted Rolls-Royce as their official car. Kings, queens, and heads of state across Europe began to ride in the Silver Ghost. But perhaps the most fascinating Rolls-Royce stories came from India. During the early 20th century, India's maharajas were some of the richest rulers on earth. They loved luxury, and they loved Rolls-Royce. Many of them ordered fleets of customized cars. Some were covered in gold plating, some decorated with ivory, and some designed for hunting trips in the jungle, fitted with rifle holders and floodlights for tiger hunts. One famous story tells of a Maharaja who was insulted by a Rolls-Royce dealer in London, who thought he could not afford a car. To teach them a lesson, the Maharaja returned home and bought an entire fleet of Rolls-Royces.
But instead of using them for luxury, he used them for collecting garbage in his kingdom. When the news spread across Europe, Rolls-Royce quickly apologized and begged for forgiveness. These stories, whether legend or truth, only added to the brand's mystique. Rolls-Royce was not just a car, it was a royal statement. The Spirit of Ecstasy. In 1911, Rolls-Royce introduced what would become one of the most famous symbols in automotive history, the Spirit of Ecstasy. Designed by sculptor Charles Sykes, it was inspired by Eleanor Thornton, who was the secret lover of Lord Montagu, one of Rolls-Royce's earliest patrons. The small statue of a woman leaning forward, with arms outstretched and cloth billowing like wings, became the defining symbol of Rolls-Royce. To this day, no Rolls-Royce is complete without the Spirit of Ecstasy on its bonnet. But Rolls-Royce was not just about luxury. When the First World War broke out in 1914, the company turned its genius towards building engines for the British war effort. Rolls-Royce armored cars became legendary for their durability in battle. During the Second World War, Rolls-Royce reached new heights with the Merlin engine. This engine powered the legendary Spitfire fighter planes, the Hawker Hurricane, the Lancaster bombers, and even the American P-51 Mustang. Without Rolls-Royce engineering, the skies of Europe might have told a very different story. By the end of the war, Rolls-Royce was not only the king of luxury, but also a symbol of engineering excellence that had helped save the free world. The Phantom Legacy. After the wars, Rolls-Royce returned to making cars. But these were not just cars, they were moving works of art. The Phantom series, first introduced in the 1920s, became the flagship of the brand. Each Phantom was hand-built, with craftsmanship that took months, sometimes years. Every detail, from the leather seats to the polished wood, was perfect. Hollywood celebrities drove them. Politicians and presidents chose them. Business tycoons ordered them with custom features. Rolls-Royce became the ultimate mark of success. If you drove a Rolls-Royce, the world knew you had arrived. Struggles and survival. The second half of the 20th century was not always easy for Rolls-Royce. The company faced financial difficulties, competition, and even bankruptcy in 1971 due to its ambitious jet engine division. But Rolls-Royce cars survived. They continued to be built under new management. Models like the Silver Shadow and the Corniche carried the name forward. In 1998, a fierce battle erupted between BMW and Volkswagen over ownership of Rolls-Royce. After complicated negotiations, BMW won the rights to Rolls-Royce name and logo, while Volkswagen kept Bentley. Many people wondered, would Rolls-Royce lose its soul? A new era. In 2003, under BMW, Rolls-Royce released the new Phantom. It was bold, it was massive, it was luxurious beyond imagination, and it was entirely modern while still carrying the DNA of the brand. The Phantom was followed by the Ghost, the Wraith, the Dawn, and the Cullinan, the world's most luxurious SUV. Every car was handcrafted, every car carried the Spirit of Ecstasy, and every car continued the tradition of perfection. The interiors were built with the finest woods, the softest leather, and even features like a starlight ceiling, where hundreds of tiny fiber optic lights recreated the night sky inside the car. Rolls-Royce was reborn. The Royal Symbol. More than 100 years have passed since that first meeting between Charles Rolls and Henry Royce, yet Rolls-Royce remains the royal car. From Buckingham Palace to Bollywood, from Dubai's princes to Hollywood stars, Rolls-Royce is still the ultimate symbol of wealth and power. The Spirit of Ecstasy still flies proudly on every bonnet. The whisper-quiet engines still glide as smoothly as they did 100 years ago. And the legend of Rolls-Royce continues. From a poor engineer and a wealthy aristocrat, From the dusty roads of 1904 to the glittering palaces of kings, from warplanes to royal processions, Rolls-Royce has been more than a car. It has been a dream on wheels, a moving palace, the royal car. This was the story of Rolls-Royce. If you enjoyed this journey into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to GearTales, because here, every car has a story worth telling.